What's up, everybody? It's WrestleZone on a Wednesday after two big episodes of WWE NXT and AEW Dynamite. Dynamite, get ready to fight! Colorful explosions on Wednesday night. We're getting into all of it. We have a lot to talk about. Mike Tyson, is he going to have a pro wrestling match? Is he going to have it in a fight pit? No, they have that over at NXT. We have so much to touch on. I'm Kevin Kella. Joined with me, my friend in the city where WrestleMania was supposed to be, Tampa, Florida. Tampa, Florida, Florida, as we know it, the genitalia of America. Robert DeFelice, how are you?
We may be the genitalia of America, but right now we are the heart and soul of the wrestling industry because we're running all the big shows.
You're running all of them. You are the industry. You're the heart and soul of it. You are it. We'll get into all of that here. If you're with us live, don't forget to share the link and get your comments on screen, especially if you're with us for the first time. Shout out where you're watching from. If you're watching on demand, don't worry, your comments matter as well. Joining us on YouTube, go ahead and give this video a thumbs up. If you're liking it on Facebook, go ahead and click that button that'll fly up on screen. Even the one that's like a hugs. You've seen the cares button now they have?
Yeah.
Yeah, we need like wrestling button. We need like a super kick button. You know, gotta slap that leg, all that stuff. We need like a big elbow drop button. We need all those. We need those buttons on Facebook.
I would love a button that's just a slap the leg button that adds emphasis to what you're saying.
Mm-hmm. Alrighty, some people are chiming in about the big angles tonight on AEW Dynamite, which we'll cover first. We got plenty to talk about with NXT. Fight Pit, Fight Pit. I want more Fight Pit. We'll get into it. I covered NXT, but you covered AEW Dynamite, which had Iron Mike Tyson and several other big non-wrestling names make their appearance. Vicky Guerrero was there, the debut of a former big WWE act. So tell me about tonight's AEW Dynamite from Daily Place in Jacksonville.
From the minute go, we're in good standing. We have the Young Bucks kicking off the show, and it's the Young Bucks and Matt Hardy, who transformed into his, what was supposed to be like his 98 self, but he actually used gear. I guess he couldn't get to his 98 gear. But good match they had against Janela and Private Party. Sad news here as Mark Quinn got injured, and the injury forced an early ending to the match. He seemed to hurt his leg on a dive. I wonder if they're going to, not knocking their style, but I wonder if between Rey Fenix, Mark Quinn, I wonder if they're going to slow down on the dives.
I got to think, I don't like the idea of pundits and guys like you and I. I've gotten in the ring and done a handful of things, but I wouldn't say I've ever had a match, and just done some physical things. I am by no means a wrestler. I wouldn't even call myself a manager. I managed one match and did a handful of physical things and didn't have to do anything severe. Everything I was comfortable with. Now, these are wrestlers who are comfortable doing a lot more riskier things over and over and over again. And this is a promotion that has a lot of guys who are known for doing those risks, but it doesn't seem like those are paying off on these matches that I don't think a lot of fans are going to remember. These are all matches that are designed to build up to big pay-per-views. I'm not saying that AEW has to stop being all elite and stop being that every single time you see us, we're going to give you the best we can every single match. But I don't think every match has to be a blowout end-all. Let's give them everything we got, because I think when you do that, even just as a fan who's been watching all my life, I can say this. It seems like you're going to take more risky. The more risks you take like this repetitively every single week, it's going to add up. And with some of the cruiserweight guys, they're going to do that every single week. And it's going to be something that makes you think, who's stepping in outside of these guys saying, all right, you're not doing this anymore. If you're going to do that, we're only going to do that in this match, or we're only going to do that to do this reason to set this up. I mean, the last week we've had how many different people get injured in AEW that makes you, just objectively saying, like, who's stepping in here? Who's telling him not to do this stuff?
And to be fair, there was an incident tonight, which we'll get to later on NXT, that was very scary. And so...
Oh, no. We will touch on that.
We have to.
I've never been one of those people that says, like, oh, they're going to get yelled at when they get through the curtain. This was one of those nights where immediately I was texting people, we're going to get through the curtain. Someone's going to get yelled at through the curtain. I'll call you in an hour. Getting texts about stuff right now.
Kevin, be a professional, Kevin.
I'm booking stuff.
Good Lord, we're talking about wrestling, and you're over here worried about your own bookings. My God. I guess moving forward in Dynamite, we had an interesting promo from Cody, and I got small, subtle heel vibes from this Cody Rhodes promo.
Now?
A little bit.
Just after winning the TNT Championship?
Just because he kind of said, Tony Khan wants the best wrestlers to be in this promotion. I wasn't the first call. I wasn't the second call. I wasn't even the third call. And then he flashed 4 fingers like this. And I just sort of said, I wonder. He says, I'm not bitter, but if I was, that's all gone now because I have this. And I said, okay, there's a seed there. We have planted a seed. It won't grow within the next week, but it's there now.
So what do you think? I mean, where are they go? I mean, they're going to turn him. He's the most over babyface.
Let me be clear. I'm saying that, I got these vibes. He's clearly going to stay a babyface. He's doing the whole gimmick where he's going to defend the title every week because it's a television title, folks. It is a television title, but he'll be defending it every week. He's going to defend against Jungle Boy next week, who won a tremendous battle royal. But Kevin, could you throw up that comment from Laura Rock?
What are we looking for here? There's a bunch
it's one about Jim Ross.
Oh, you got a beef with Jim Ross every single week, Robert. I don't know what it is. I'm happy with Jim Ross. I thought he did a great job on Double or Nothing. Now, mind you, when we do our Wednesday night shows, you watch AEW Live and I watch NXT Live, so I've not heard this week's episode.
This one is less of a me having an issue with Jim Ross's commentary. More, I just want to address what she said. She says, "Well, is that why Jim Ross took a jab at WWE?" And he did. Mm-hmm. So in the opening match, there was a spot where the action goes to the outside of the ring, and there's fans there, and the fans of the wrestlers. Butcher and Blade start beating up the Young Bucks. The Young Bucks fight back. Mm-hmm. And Excalibur says, that's the risk we run having wrestlers in the audience. And JR says, well, we could always put them behind plexiglass. And I went, oof. They just had that, I gotta get at WWE because they had their wrestlers behind the plexi, the little hockey boards.
Yes, this is the second WWE television production to have WWE performance trainees behind plexi boards around the ring. They're filming everything at the Performance Center. Yeah,
so JR did get that shit in, but you know what? I didn't mind it as much. It just kind of made me laugh. I went, ooh, they're going there, But the important thing is this: Young Bucks attack Butcher and Blade. The match ends. Butcher and Blade come in to attack the Young Bucks, and who would show up to save the Young Bucks?
Who?
No longer Scott Dawson and Dash Wilder, but Cash Wheeler and Dax Harwood. FTR.
Harwood? I'm gonna say it. Once I heard Dax Harwood, I immediately thought that sounds like a porn star name.
It is.
When I heard that, I was like, dude, sounds like a porn star name.
You definitely get those vibes.
Yeah.
But
if he's not winning the PWI, he's winning the AVN.
I'll tell you, he's hitting it hard, but not that. They unload on Butcher and Blade. And I mean, you think for a second, they still have the Shatter Machine, which is cool to see. They're still doing their gimmick. And all of a sudden, they help the Young Bucks up. And they stare down. And the Young Bucks go to super kick them. They duck. And Butcher and Blade get hit. There's a mutual show of respect between the Young Bucks and FTR. But the important thing is FTR have arrived in AEW.
So what did you think of their debut? I got to see a clip of it. Looked pretty cool. I like the idea of them driving in on an old school truck. I thought that was very rustic, good old boys wrestling, which is kind of what they represent. That is the style that they've taken on. That they're like a modern. They're the revival of legitimate old school 70s, 80s tag team wrestling. And the dream match is the Bucks versus them. We get that match now. They have their own name. It's a very TV-14 name. F the rest is what they're going for, something around that acronym. They've played it.
So they are just FTR. So what it is they're going to be FTR, and they're constantly going to have different merch based around the letters FTR. So we saw the Fear of the Revolt one, which earned them a cease and desist. Now they have F the rest. I like it. I like FTR. I like that they took this inside joke from the Young Bucks that was F the Revival, and they're making merch. They're making money off of what was a spoof on them.
What could be our number one fan on WrestleZone Daily, if you're with us live on Facebook or you're checking it out on YouTube, this is the guy everyone has to catch up with, man. He is the top dog in the WZD verse. He is. I've been told I don't say this right. I've been told I just can't even say our number one fan's name right.
It is the one, the only, James Espanto Fernando Tagua.
He texts in and says AEW has to make their fan base happy, and AEW loves salty treats, aka salty treats. That's what we should call them now. Yes, anytime any of the other promotions take a dig at someone, James has given us a new WZD phrase, a new catchphrase: salty treats.
I gotta tell you guys. Salty treats may be great on occasion, but salt is for your food and not your mood. And they gotta stop these
food puns.
They gotta stop these digs. I thought the JR one was playful. I liked it, and I haven't liked JR a lot lately, but I like this one.
Speaking of FTR debuting, Sean texting saying FTR OMG AEW. He loved it. Mark texting and said FTR is the next best team in AEW. He loved it. Enjoying it as well. Chris Gone texting in, thank God for AEW. Wash away the bad taste of Raw and SmackDown.
Sometimes that happens. Sometimes you get a bad taste in your mouth and you need something fresh to get the taste out. And I thought
Raw and SmackDown this past week were particularly good. I thought they were
Raw. I thought Raw was pretty good. I'm liking the way wrestling's going this week. Wrestling has been pretty solid this week.
Oh, but too much Charlotte Flair, but she's having the best matches on TV. I will get to that. If you are in the anti-Charlotte Flair faction, I have some words for you coming up in our NXT segment. But we're still talking about AEW. This is the debut. What do you think of the FTR and AEW? The future is teased. You're going to get this dream match with the Young Bucks at some point. But how strong of a debut is this? Because they have to do these debuts now with Matt Hardy, with Luke Harper, now Brody Lee coming over, and they're doing them without a crowd. Imagine what the reaction would be like with a crowd, with a real big live crowd there.
The reaction would be so good with the crowd. However, they have played this smart by debuting them and not having them start fighting the Bucks until there's a crowd. I think you wait until there's a crowd for that. There was a lot on this show that I'm like, all right, cool, seeds planted, but this requires a crowd, and now you got to wait.
Other people texting in. If you're with us for the first time, don't be afraid to get your comments on screen. I love the interaction here. There's a ton of wrestling content out there, but I always pride ourselves on us doing something live, us doing something that the fans ask for of the show. We're not the biggest wrestling podcast in the world, are we, Robert? No.
We're
but
not.
You know what? You know what we got? I got right over here. I got the pillows. All right. No one's sitting in them, but I can feel you taking a dent in these pillows because the wrestling virtual couch is comfy and you are invited, and it is right here because I'm proud to tell you Robert has broke new ground for WrestleZone. We are available on Facebook. We are available on YouTube. You can get the audio of the WrestleZone Radio podcast of this show and much more content, like our exclusive interview with Mance Warner, who now wants to super kick anyone who coughs in his face. That is something he put on the internet. You can go check out that interview.
I appreciate it.
An interview with Ricky Starks, the biggest free agent in pro wrestling right now. All right, so we have that up there, all on the podcast, plus this show, hours of free stuff on the podcast audio version, WrestleZone Radio. But one thing people have asked us to do for a long time, Robert, is when are you guys going to get the show on Spotify? And I am proud to tell you, Robert has broke new ground. He has taken us to the moon of podcasting. All right, who needs Tesla? Who needs SpaceX? We got a new rocket, and his name is Robert DeFelice, because now you can listen to WrestleZone Radio and stream it anywhere in the world on Spotify. So if you're a fan of the show and you don't watch shows live, or maybe you watch some shows live or watch the video and you like the audio version too, or maybe you can't watch the whole show and you just want to finish the rest of the episode, go follow us. That's how you can do it. You follow the page. Just search WrestleZone Radio. You see the logo just like the one we have in the corner of the screen here. And WrestleZone Radio is right there. It's free. We don't have a Patreon wall. We don't have any of that stuff right now. We do have Spotify. I know a lot of you guys are on there. That's where you're listening to music right now too. A lot of podcasts are on there too. And now we're there with you as well. So if you haven't checked it out, go do that now on Spotify.
And specifically, yes, you have the dailies, but we also have so much great interview content. Dominic DeAngelo killing it, interviewing Mance Warner, Ricky Starks, Bill Pritchard interviewing Christian, John Moxley. There's an interview from November that broke the internet with Kevin Kella interviewing Seth Rollins, talking about wanting to fight CM Punk. There's so much content, and now you can get it.
And the cool thing, I'm going to look into this. I don't know if we can do it with the podcast, is we can maybe put playlists together too. I'm thinking about doing that for people that are like new to the show, that we can put some of those like best of moments together and like some things. So if any of you guys are diehard fans of the show, let us know what some of those interviews or different segments or different things you like that you want us to do more of on the show. So let us know in the comments, and let us know on Twitter at WrestleZone.com as well. Let's keep going.
Actually, if you're streaming on Spotify, let us know. Let us know that that's how you plan on listening to us. We know that it's the #1 streaming app for music, so we wanted to get on there, and I'm glad we did. But let's keep this ball rolling, because we had a hell of a closer on Dynamite this week.
This is one that, like I said, you cover AEW live and I cover NXT live, but I got texts from friends about this right before we went live about why are they doing this? What is the deal? It was talked about. Now, getting people to talk about something is good, but is it always great? Get yourself some attention. AEW already got attention by having Mike Tyson at their Double or Nothing pay-per-view. If you caught the post show, many of you may have listened or watched it. I was not fond of Mike Tyson's participation in AEW Double or Nothing. It seemed underwhelming to have one of the most dangerous men in all of sports history to be there to take his shirt off. And that's it. We didn't get much more of that electric personality that Mike Tyson's been able to display in the boxing ring. He's a guy a lot of people are talking about. He's going to have a big return to pro boxing, possibly in a big bout that a lot of people want to see and will pay a lot of money for. But this guy in his early 50s looks like $1 million, punching like $1 million, but he didn't punch anybody at the pay-per-view. But what did he do tonight? Because tonight seems probably even bigger than the pay-per-view itself.
Tonight was a lot bigger than the pay-per-view itself. Now, I had initially thought, he hands Cody the belt again, but the belt will be finished. That was not to be. Cody still doesn't have the finished belt. So we get to the end of the show, and I'm thinking, all right, so they're closing out with Tyson knocks out Jericho. Clean, no harm done. You keep that feud alive, because Jericho has been very forthwith on Twitter. I haven't forgotten January 10th, 2010, when Mike Tyson knocked me out on a Monday night. Now,
that is a big thing with AEW. They're constantly referencing the history. Like, hey, you're a fan. We know you watched this, and we want to award you for watching this by following up in some other way. I like that. Like when they do that.
And specifically, I get the vibe that Jericho is just I'm going to do this without ever saying Raw. And sure enough, Kevin, I expect Mike Tyson to come out and end the show. I do not expect Mike Tyson to be flanked by Vitor Belfort, who mentioned AEW, mentioned wanting to have a tag match with Mike Tyson, specifically.
That was a story a few days ago.
Yeah, and it was just
we didn't even cover on the show, because we're just like, this is another MMA guy saying he wants a big payday fight or match in WWE. Chris Cyborg has been saying this for 2 years in MMA. It's been the common trend that a lot of people that do MMA and have an opening, or they're not locked down in a deal, want to do some pro wrestling stuff.
Right, and no harm, no foul. Henry Cejudo, who made headlines when he was saying that he wanted to go on a date with Nikki Bella.
Just retired in UFC. All right.
Just retired in UFC. Said he would take on Rey Mysterio.
Mm-hmm.
And it appears AEW got him first. And then, the Rashad Evans and a bunch of other people. But the important thing is the show did not end with Mike Tyson knocking out Jericho. The show ends with a pull apart between Tyson's gang and this inner circle. And it's Tyson trying to get at Jericho and Jericho screaming, "I'll get you, Tyson." Now, JR, to his credit, and this is the one JR criticism I have, he tried to redo the Austin wants Tyson, Tyson wants Austin, but it was like a much less enthusiastic Tyson wants Jericho, Jericho wants Tyson. But I got where they were going, and the important thing is they left so much meat on the bone here.
I want to read what I got from I won't say the person, okay? Because it isn't fair to them, but there's somebody whose wrestling opinions I really respect. And they haven't done a podcast about this yet. But I will say that this person called it, "Why would anyone care about Mike Tyson? It's not 1999. F that. That was they said that the pep circle, the pep rally was kind of funny for the inner circle, but that's one of the worst segments they've ever done." And I texted back. I was like, "Are you talking about AEW?" He's like, "Absolutely, one of the worst. Totally lame. F that was bad."
Do I know that person?
You would know that.
Okay.
And I'm sorry, everybody. I know you guys want to know who it is. But
so I got a text from somebody not within the industry, but I think it's the most telling text you can get. I got one that just simply read, "What year is it?" And I was like, "Okay." And I responded back, "Don't worry, it's 98. You're good."
So, I mean, here's the thing. I didn't see it. You saw it. Was it cool to see? Is it something that you think moves the needle online?
It moves the effing needle, Kevin, because you're getting the fighting world, and people are gonna pop when they hear Mike Tyson. Look, we go back and forth on a lot of things. I'm not arguing with this one. This moves the needle. You can get mad that it's not 98. You can get mad that they're using Tyson and Tyson's questionable past. I'm not arguing with you there. But this moves the needle. People will be talking.
Yeah.
Especially if they end up announcing anything for a show like Fyter Fest or All Out or whatever else they may do.
And Sean Smith isn't a fan of it. He says the needle is on E. Are you talking about WWE? Are you talking about WWE?
The needle is on E.
Salty treat. Get yourself a salty treat right there, Robert. Eat that salty treat up.
I'm a little surprised at that take, Kev. I got to be honest with you. I don't think that they're having a problem in AEW. I think AEW has been doing very well, and it was fake to see. Well, I got bad news for the rest of the product that you watched, pal. I guess you know what it is, and I'll tell you what I think it is. Why people are a little salty about this. It's a very WWE, what you would consider to be a traditional WWE move. Now I know what your argument. Yeah, your argument is going to be, well, you're still making money, and you have to make money, and I agree with that. But I think people will feel like this is a very WWE thing. You're bringing in Tyson. You're focusing on Jericho. Why isn't there more focus on, I don't know, John Moxley, who was on the show but had a very brief bit where he was just on commentary for 10 seconds while Brian Cage squashed a guy.
Okay. Jaquista texting in here saying Tyson has become an Instagram star with his workouts. Yeah, I think that's kind of what prompted him being brought into the fold here. And it is a huge coup. I've been saying this for weeks. This was a very, very big thing that AEW pulled off to get him out on, especially now with everything going on in the pandemic. And to be able to tape this stuff with him. Was the show live tonight?
Yeah.
Okay, so they had the show live. They broadcasted the show live, and NXT was taped. But I mean, when the results are getting out, it really doesn't matter. I got to say this though: is this the angle you want to do? Are wrestling fans the fans you're going for? And when I read this on the surface, and I step away and I take off my wrestling hat, once again I put on that media hat, which you see me put on, and I will put it on for something else involving 6 big letters that you could pay $15 for every month. I will do that in the next few minutes. Big little tease there, all right? Follow the breadcrumbs, if you will. I got to say this, though. This is something that you're doing because an ESPN is going to follow it. A USA Today may write about it. This is what WCW did. This is what WWE's done before. when they bring in those big mainstream sports stars, when they got Brock Lesnar back, it was a big deal. All right. Getting Mike Tyson there is a big deal. And I think we'll see if Mike Tyson made a bump on this pay-per-view, even though if you find people buying this pay-per-view for $50 and it was the first time they watched an AEW Double or Nothing show, maybe they had a great time watching the show. But what got them to buy that show was Mike Tyson. And what is Mike Tyson going to do? Maybe I watched wrestling back, 5-10 years ago. Maybe I just watched WrestleMania or the Royal Rumble. This is designed for casual fans. This is designed for casual sports fans that AEW doesn't feel they can reach just off their hardcore fan base, which they've developed very, very quickly and may have taken. If you want to say they took it from WWE, sure, say it, whatever. I don't care. I'm not going to debate that with you. But they've tapped into that wrestling audience that's on TV right now. And wrestling is still being produced, and they found a way to work around all this stuff, right?
Right.
It's a big deal for them. We will see if his presence on television produced a television rating. You know what I mean? So they're doubling down on this concept of Mike Tyson as a celebrity who can bring in new fans for us. And look what we have. Once you bring people to the tent, look what we have, and you'll stay. And that's what WWE did with Mike Tyson in '98. And that's what I think AEW is trying to do here now. I completely understand it. But if you're doing a very WWE thing, is an AEW audience that loves to say, we're very wrestling, we're everything that isn't WWE. Is this too WWE?
That is where the disconnect lies. You don't get to say, keep your Brock Lesnar's because we have Mike Tyson. You don't get that oh, I can't say this is the wrestling brand because they're going to put some emphasis on a, Gaga angle. And I think that's fine, but hey, there's something for everybody. Wrestling at the end of the day is a variety show meant for a lot of people, and it's not just you and your Bullet Club shirt. And I understand the irony as I'm wearing an Elite shirt.
Yeah, but I mean, you're a fan of what they're doing for the most part, even when you're not just covering wrestling. I think AEW's done some great things to move the needle, and certainly they're a game-changing professional wrestling organization. Millions and millions of dollars injected into the business. They've changed the way that guys are signed to deals, guys and gals. They are the biggest wrestling promotion out there outside of WWE, without a shadow of a doubt. I'm not taking anything away from them. But is this something you think is going to piss off their fans? Because I haven't seen a single person say that this makes them excited about Fyter Fest or All Out. And it looks like what you're teasing. If you do a pull apart, you're teasing a fight, right? You're teasing something, all right? And some people will say that AEW's going to do what WWE wanted to do with Tyson, but they're going to do it better, right? That's what they're always going to say. You're always going to have those fans that are going to say it. People are going to, defend it. But is this what you want to do? Do you want to have all these MMA guys here go against pro wrestlers and make pro wrestlers look like pro wrestlers? Are you going into that Inokiism issue that New Japan Pro Wrestling had on a very, very public scale that nearly embarrassed the company into the ground? Are you going to have guys that are MMA guys that, I don't know if they can wrestle. We don't know if they can have a good match. We've never seen Rashad Evans have a pro wrestling match, have we? Has he ever had a pro wrestling match?
I don't believe
Henry
so.
Cejudo is a very, very charismatic guy. I think has a future in wrestling. And here's the thing. What would have been better what would have been better than this? We don't know, but this is what you're getting, and there's already a lot of unease about it. But if we look at the ratings tomorrow, and AEW is above 1 million viewers, and they've been fighting to be above 1 million viewers for months now,
then they won. And I think if they are, and I don't know if they will be, but if they are, it's a harsh lesson for wrestling fans who sometimes don't want to admit that wrestling isn't what makes wrestling the biggest thing in the world. Let's read a comment here from Evangelista, who says,
go ahead, buddy.
Who wants to see imitation programs like AEW's imitating a lot of WWE stories that failed or other wrestling companies that failed imitating WWE? Now, there is an issue there where I think like you can point to ECW and TNA and say that where they failed was they tried to just be WWE. Now, that is an issue. I haven't seen AEW do that yet. I think AEW has done a lot of their own thing. And yes, they're going to be inspired by the past because you have a bunch of historians running the company. But I liked it. I can't say it sucked because, you know what? It got me going, where are they going with this? As a guy who has to cover this, I'm like, oh, we're going to have some big time, better move and get it up quick kind of stories if we're going to keep doing these crossovers. That excites me.
All right, so you see the positivity in this, and I'm not saying it's all bad. I mean, it's certainly, if this gives them a rating and that's the point of it, and it's just going to be a spectacle, and it's going to be, you know, what WWE got out of having Floyd Mayweather, what they got out of having different celebrities in, what they got out of having a Gronk have the 24/7 championship. If they go ahead and do that, then you can wave your flag with it. If it has your ratings, it's going to be interesting here. Coming up, we'll cover NXT here in just a few minutes and how they went into the pit. All right, we'll talk about that. Someone lost some teeth. There was blood on television.
You're big on the pit. I'm liking this pit. You're selling me on the pit.
Oh, dude, I'm going to tell you, I have a take on the fight pit, and let me tell you, it may move the needle. We're all about moving the needle and sending off falls. Little salty treats there tonight. I want to get salty treats across as the thing. We'll talk about that. Also, before we're done with HBO Max here and the AEW thing, we have to talk about it. We saw the banners around the ring. We saw it at the commentary table. It was mentioned quite a bit during tonight's show with AEW. You got to see it. It was across social media tonight. It is a topic that's been trending all day. I don't know a lot of people that subscribe to it, but it launched today. So AEW Dynamite airs on TNT. And TNT is owned by Warner Media, which is under the AT&T banner. It is one of the biggest media conglomerates in the world and has access to a bunch of different libraries of content, including all of the DC Cinematic Universe, all of HBO, which is huge, all of Adult Swim, Cartoon Network, The Big Bang Theory, a lot of TV shows. And they put it together on one streaming service, which is kind of expensive. It's $15 a month. If you're an HBO subscriber, you already are grandfathered in. You already have this. So if you already follow HBO, maybe you stuck around after Game of Thrones, you have this. If you're a Verizon subscriber, you already have it. Why am I bringing this all up? Well, you watched AEW Dynamite on TNT. What if the next day you could get it on this new streaming service? What if your new show that we were supposed to get from AEW, their secondary weekly television show, some people think it's dark, it's on YouTube. What if that show was no longer on YouTube and was on HBO Max? What if a completely new show was on HBO Max? That is where we are. The question has to be asked. A big streaming service, here's weekly pro wrestling content. WWE's already proven the model. Whether or not you think they've done it successfully, they're certainly making money with it. Is AEW going to be on HBO Max? That is a question I saw across the internet. I put a poll up on Twitter, and an overwhelming amount of fans want to see AEW on HBO Max. And the big thing about watching AEW on pay-per-view is you're watching it through traditional pay-per-view, which a lot of fans have been conditioned not to do anymore, to get the WWE network and pay their $10 a month or just do a free trial, or I'm going to get it just for the pay-per-views I like, and then I'm going to stop subscribing and then come back. And you kind of cut out the middleman when you don't have to deal with pay-per-view. You don't have to deal with the subscribers. The pot doesn't have to be nearly as big to be nearly as profitable. We're going to talk about it here. I want to see the numbers here. Majority of fans want it. But there is a certain segment of fans that only want it if there's pay-per-view. 37% of fans said yes. 29% of fans said yes, only if there's pay-per-view. 18% said no. Got enough video subs, because there are a lot of people that already have Netflix, they have Hulu, they have the network, they have WWE Network. You know, maybe they have Spotify and they're paying for the premium. They don't want to pay for another thing.
You know, I'm one of those idiots that's just like, oh, you have this one thing that I'm definitely gonna watch over and over again. I guess you have my money.
Yeah. I got Disney Plus just because they have The Simpsons,
I
and I was like, there's a handful of Marvel movies on there I want to watch. And once I get done with those and I feel like watching enough Simpsons, I'll drop it. So that's another thing with the subscription stuff is you're not bound by it. I have the network every month because I watch it. I don't mind it. I watch enough of WWE. We have to follow it, something for work, right? But this is interesting here. If AEW could get on HBO Max, and we don't know what HBO Max is going to do as a platform. This is the first day. We're not even 24 hours into this thing being available, but I saw a lot of people talking about it, doing the trial. There's a lot of people that have a year-long trial. If you're on Verizon, you get this thing for a year for free. So there's a lot of people that are going to have this service right away out of the box. I don't think it's going to be as big as Netflix, which is over 168 million last time I checked. Disney Plus is over 50. People are going to say, oh, a WWE network is only 2 million people, 1.2 million. It doesn't matter. WWE owns it. It's just their stuff. The problem with AEW, I think if they go on this service, is they could get lost in the shuffle there. Because there's a lot of stuff that, like, brand-wise is much, much bigger than that.
I can run this down for you real quick, but there's stuff from the Cartoon Network side of things, the Adult Swim side of things, including Rick and Morty. There's like Friends is on there, and there's the Big Bang Theory is on there, which aren't even like technically Warner properties, but like there is just this mashup of content that is very, very heavy. And I don't know if it's placed for AEW without there being a live channel to say now they wanted to be the guinea pigs for live content. That's a different game entirely.
BR Live is something else that Warner owns, and they did the pay-per-view in the United States on BR Live. You can do it digital through that, right? That's how I got the pay-per-view this weekend. If you can tell me I can get the pay-per-view for $15 and I get all this other stuff, that's not bad. Or if you want to tier it and say, hey, here's $30, $15 to the pay-per-view on top of it or something like that. I don't know. But at the same time, we don't know if AEW, in that most recent TV contract that they signed in January, that HBO Max was added. We do know they are supposed to deliver a new second show for Warner Media, for TNT. And could that show be on HBO Max? Something makes me think that's what this is. If they do get on HBO Max, my jump to point is no. The pay-per-views stay the pay-per-views, and you're paying $50 from every month or every 2 months, especially because they're not doing them every month. I do think that is their justification, saying we're only doing this every quarter. We're asking you for an extra $50, right? So there is a financial line there too. Also, there's been a lot of money thrown into AEW. They're not a publicly traded company. We don't know if they're in the red yet. We don't know if they're in the black yet. We don't know. WWE, you can find their finances. They're out there, and you can analyze them as you will. So I'm more inclined to think that secondary TV show gets put on there. Maybe something like a Clash of the Champions gets put on there. Maybe Fyter Fest is on there, but All Out is still on pay-per-view. So there's something to be said for this.
And there's so many different ways we can go with it.
Yeah, there's so many different directions we can go with it. And obviously, we don't know the inside nature on this. This is something we've been trying to ask about, and we haven't gotten any response on. So, and mind you, on none of these media calls, no one has flat out asked anyone from AEW if this is happening. But tonight, you saw it. The banners were all around the ring. You saw every big AEW personality mention it on social media today. They're out there.
JR said it. He's just like, yeah, Sopranos. And I was like, okay. JR wants to watch the Sopranos. I believe Excalibur.
But if you're watching any of the different Warner channels, like TBS has Conan O'Brien. Conan O'Brien's going to do some specials on this new streaming service. He's going to have content on there. I guarantee you he's talking about it. I guarantee you they're going to have a Rick and Morty ad about it this week or something soon. And so there's a lot to be said for that. This is a cross Warner Media's portfolio that they're probably saying do this. So obviously, if you're a sports show, they're going to say, hey, put those banners out there. Say that we got HBO Max out there. So
And one day, and this is a conversation for a different day and different podcast, but that bubble will burst and there will be only a few survivors. And will HBO Max be one of them? That's the ride we're on, folks. And I'm looking forward to it.
I mean, I'll say this, just as outside of wrestling, they put a lot of money into this. There's been a lot of money spent on the rights to very, very big shows, specifically Friends. I heard the number was huge. Hundreds of millions of dollars has been spent just on the rights to air Friends on a streaming service for a few years. All right, imagine that. Hundreds of millions of dollars just so you can click and watch.
And this is a show that millennials have lambasted and roasted and said, I don't know why this was a thing in 1994.
That is one of those shows that, like, The Office has found, like, teenagers are coming on to that show and stuff like that too. So, I mean, there could be something said for that. You know, Netflix had this whole other level of growth once WWE got off it. It was already popular, and WWE had shows on there. They had some specials.
They had their DVDs on there. Yeah. I mean, people forget Netflix at one point had, like, Family Guy, and, you know, you had stuff that you couldn't even get anywhere else. And
but it was that maturation, you know, it was that maturation point with subscription services and different things like that. Like, Netflix was years ahead of this. But so a lot of people said WWE really pushed the needle, saying, oh, we're going to go find a very specific audience and we're going to offer it to you. We're not going to do it through a cable provider. So all the other sports leagues were doing that. But look what happened then. Then there was DC Universe, which is DC Universe, also owned by Warner. That's going to get merged into this HBO Max.
I also subscribe to that.
They're going to do that. What?
I also subscribe to that. These people have a lot of my money. It's a terrible thing.
Yeah, so it's definitely taking it there. Other people texting in, Thomas B saying HBO Max is free on Spectrum cable, so I guess he gets it through that. And maybe that's owned by them. That's
somebody didn't tell me that before I subscribed.
maybe you got it, dude. Maybe you got HBO Max. You don't even know it.
Maybe I did, but I also paid for it now. So.
Big fan of the show, Scotty George texting in. Thank you so much, Scotty. Once again to see you here. He says AEW should just put their pay-per-views on there. Leave the regular programming on TNT so Cody can continue to kiss their ass.
And now, okay, that is in regards to the fact that Cody did say, I am the champion of the #1 network in America. You know, so yeah, Cody's kissing ass a little bit. But that's okay, because I would venture a guess, Kevin, by saying there's no network Cody would rather be on.
Oh, Thomas B texting in. Thank you so much. Thomas is one of our big fans of the show. Thomas also sharing a word with us that he knows someone very close to him, unfortunately, has contracted the COVID-19 virus, and hopefully you and your family are okay. I understand it's a very, very scary situation. I know people personally who've also been impacted, who've had the test come back positive. It's a very, very scary time. But I'm rooting for you, man. All right, this isn't a finisher. All right, you're kicking out onto, you and your family are going to be all right. Hopefully, we all come back on the other side of things healthy and strong. He said, "I would buy it if Robert, if you and Robert are on it." I don't know. We're not getting a show on HBO Max.
But let me tell you,
we got on Spotify. Let's let that settle.
Let me tell you, you just kicked the door open to Patreon.
Yeah, you guys ain't paying for this. Yeah, we're 43 minutes in the show. We haven't talked about NXT yet. Let's get into it. NXT was a strong episode. AEW seems like it was a strong episode. Maybe some fans were chewing on some salty treats with the final segment. But I love me some NXT tonight. This is the first night they've had fans behind the hockey boards in the Performance Center, it looked like. Or maybe this is Full Sail. It's hard to tell.
It's Full Sail.
It was Full Sail?
Mm-hmm.
All right. Well, then you're ahead of me on that. But I loved it. It was another thing, just like Monday Night on Raw. I thought this added a whole nother element to the show. There was a couple of job matches that were even better just because there was a crowd reaction to them. Tommaso Ciampa had another showdown via the big screen with his upcoming opponent at the NXT TakeOver in Karrion Kross. I have to stop myself from saying Killer Kross. Scarlett Bordeaux is at ringside. You didn't see Cross. You just saw him on the screen and just his eyes. It was beautiful visuals. It's one of those fun gaga things it can do with a big TV screen. After Tommaso took out a jabroni, he then squared off with him and he said, "You're going to go through something very special, something you've never experienced in your whole life." It was simple and it worked. I'm looking forward to Cross versus Ciampa. We had Shotzi Blackheart in action against Raquel Gonzalez. Raquel is the monster heater for Dakota Kai. Shotzi's been going back and forth with her. And, of course, she has to face her monster to go on to her. Tegan Knox is supporting Shotzi in this angle. Nasty spell from Shotzi Blackheart, who did a coffin drop outside of the ring. She was supposed to be landing on Raquel and Dakota Kai, and they barely caught her. It looked like Shotzi took quite the spill, nearly landed on her head. It was pretty nasty and pretty quick. And Tegan Knox was even there ringside to kind of check on her. And the referee was there. Raquel takes the finisher and lays out Shotzi very shortly after that, but off the top rope. It was a nasty finisher. It wasn't just like a roll-up here. A lot of interference, a lot of misses, but, I mean, you couldn't deny that was a huge, huge fall that Shotzi took. And it looked nasty, did not look planned. It was brutal. But other parts of the action tonight were very strong. We're seeing way too much of Charlotte Flair on TV, Robert. Way too much. She's on every TV show, right? Right?
Now, I know you don't feel that way, Kevin.
I do think she's on too much television. I do think if you're going to spread people out, she's on too much TV. But we got her tonight as she is still taking on a very slew of different threats here. At the upcoming pay-per-view, she'll defend TakeOver. She'll defend the NXT Women's Championship against Io Shirai and Rhea Ripley, both of whom she's gotten past in the past few weeks here. And we got to see her in a tag team match. And this was pretty cool. This was some fun stuff. This was another match I think that benefited from all of the different things you can see. Who am I trying to think of? Who was her mystery tag team partner? I don't have my notes in front of me. It flew right past me. I have to scroll past stuff here. But the thing I loved about this match was this is the first time where just like Monday Night Raw, where I felt the crowd, like, they were really into it. They were cheering for everything. And Charlotte, everyone's trading finishers at the end, and people going, ooh, and and they're like verging on the "this is awesome" chant. I'm like, oh, yeah. When people respond to stuff, it's cool, and you can hear it. It was fun. I liked it. It wasn't the greatest match, but it was really, really strong. Charlotte laying in a big boot and getting the finisher at the end. I liked that. Charlotte is getting through all these matches. She's having the best matches on TV, and you hate her. But guess what? She has the most over championship in wrestling. That is my big, definitive, provocative statement. Find me a championship that I think people care about more in wrestling right now, and I don't know which one it is. You only have 2 shows on weekly TV. She's on every single one, and she's beating everybody, and she has the belt, and you hate her guts, and you want to see her lose. So there's that. But I do have to talk about this. Steven Chambers is texting in about it. Thank you so much, Steve. Got to bring this up here. They've got a great storyline in Drake Maverick. And tonight we got, which was kind of the makeup of a bunch of different things. We got Kushida versus Jake Atlas versus Drake Maverick, who we know was released by WWE just about a month ago now. And he's still in this tournament. If he loses, he's out of the tournament. He's out of WWE. They're now saying it. He's fighting for his job. This is something they've alluded to, but now they're saying it. And we get this triple threat match. It was an awesome match. It wasn't the best match, but it was great. Not nearly as good as other things I've done in the tournament. A lot more moving pieces with 3 guys. But Kushida gets Jake Atlas in that arm bore off the top. That arm bore. It's not a boring move. He's boring into the person's body. He bores into him with an arm bar, flipping off the top rope. Really cool move. I like this move. It's been getting over. But guess who covers Jake Atlas while he has his arm bar on? And gets the 1, 2, 3. What a fun, creative, dusty finish that doesn't make Kushida look like a fool, doesn't make Jake Atlas look like he just got jobbed out, but makes Jake Atlas look like he was advantageous. He's courageous, and he can sneak in there and get one, but he doesn't look like a weasel, right? We got Drake Maverick winning. He moves on. Kushida told him, you fight for your job. You fight, but win the title. And he will move on in the tournament finals. I don't know if we're getting this on TakeOver or not.
This has to be on TakeOver.
I think it has to be on TakeOver too. As he will take on El Hijo del Fantasma for the NXT Interim Cruiserweight Championship. This will be the match coming up.
This
Drake
is Maverick, so fun.
Dude, Drake Maverick is just over with me. He is one of my favorite guys to watch. I don't think he's the best wrestler, and I think it's something to be said. WWE is a lot of the best wrestlers in the world in terms of bell-to-bell stuff. 205 Live is a great show, but how much do we talk about the storylines on 205 Live? We don't. You know, you have great wrestling, you have great matches, but if people don't care about your character, it really doesn't matter. Drake Maverick, though, is over. He's in the finals. They're giving the fans what they want. I loved it. I thought this was a great move here. I really enjoyed it. We then got a Zoom call between William Regal and Adam Cole to negotiate a live negotiation for his upcoming title match with Velveteen Dream, who's been in his craw for quite some time. And it looks like we're getting another cinematic match, a cinematch, as you called it. You called it a cinematch. You texted that to me. I thought that was kind of cool. We don't know where we're going to get it, but it will be in a special location. We got NXT had a cinematic match. They had that Brawl present, right?
They had a Gargano Ciampa.
The final beat.
Yes. And that was very similar build. We're going to give you your own spotlight, a special arena. Now, this sounds like, I don't know if they would do the two guys to have a cinematic match, but somebody's losing here and somebody's moving away here.
Oh, you think this is somebody gets sent off NXT land, huh?
I think so, because you're at the point where if Cole isn't champion, what does he have?
Mm-hmm.
For that brand in particular. And if Dream doesn't win, well, then he's not going to, because this is like his third or fourth shot at it. So move forward.
Mm-hmm.
I think, as painful as it is, I think Dream gets it. Undisputed Era, it's time for them to test the waters on either Raw or SmackDown, which scares me, but we're in an era where everything is scary, so let's just do it.
Chelsea Green was Charlotte Flair's tag team partner. I'm sorry, I didn't have that in my notes. I'll say this. Love Chelsea Green's entrance. Robert Strand, the Strand brand, is a very, very cool. I love the whole gimmick. That gimmick is working for me, by the way. I'm sorry, I didn't have my notes in front of me. I was just responding so much to the response the match got there live. My mistake. Overall, this match kept escalating. This night escalated quite a bit here to this cage fight. First, it wasn't a match. It was a cage fight, all right, between Timothy Thatcher. Oh, I have to mention this. I almost forgot. I love the vignette they did at the bar with Oney Lorcan and Danny Burch. This was fun. These are the guys that are going to take on Imperium for the tag team titles. I love this. I am enjoying them as a tag team of we're just two rough guys. I got a master's in bar fight. I'm Oney Lorcan. Like, he's like a good, there's something about Oney Lorcan that I can't put my finger on. That just is simple and it works, right? It's just simple and it works. Throw him up. Like, the bro-ish of the stuff that he has. He looks like a guy who wants to fight at a bar. That's his gimmick. Danny Burch looks like a British guy who wants to fight at a bar. That's his gimmick. And it just works. Like, they work in the same way that, like, the Revival, FTR, whatever you want to call them, there's nothing super complicated about them, but they do something very, very simple, very, very well. And that's what I like about Burch and Lorcan.
That's because tag team wrestling exists to be an attraction, because it's two men that gel as a unit. That is the attraction with tag team wrestling. You don't need a lot of bells and whistles. And I mean, yeah, don't get me wrong. Road Warriors, greatest tag team of all time. Super fun. A lot of bells and whistles, but you don't need them. Okay? And this match, should it be on TakeOver in your house, might just run away with the whole damn event, because these are two teams who can go. But I will say, since I mentioned the Road Warriors, I like the throwback 80s vignette kind of, we're going to tell personality profiles on our channel.
Danny told me he wants to meet up with me at this bar. I was like, you can meet up at bars in Florida? All right, whatever. So they meet up at a bar that looks like a pub, right? So they're doing like we're roughneck pub guys, right? And they clink glasses, throw them up. We're going for those belts. And I was just like, yeah, dude, like, this is cool. Instead of just saying, like, we're going to come on, we want you at the pay-per-view, we're going to take on the belts. It's like,
so much better. I honestly,
meet me in person. We're going to figure this out. You hit hard, I hit hard. I think we can win those titles. Go get those belts. I liked it. It was cool.
Honestly, I think that this is better than promos in front of fans.
Mm-hmm. But this is the pre-film thing. This is where, like, the circumstances drive you to go do stuff like this. Steven Chambers texting about this. Keith Lee and Mia Yim got under Gargano's back once again. Johnny Gargano is working a new gimmick, new t-shirt. I like this. All heart, no soul. I thought it was kind of cool. And he was out in the ring with his new tinting her hair different Candice LeRae, who's now evil. And the Garganos were out in the ring. They get cut off on the big screen after the jobber match. It's Big Keith Lee and Mia Yim kind of doing their spin on what the Garganos did when they were having dinner, cutting a promo at someone, and Tegan Knox delivered a pizza that only had 2 slices in it, and Keith Lee was not happy about that. It was an okay segment. It wasn't great. It wasn't the best thing on the night, but we went through it. Mia Yim nearly stole the spot there. Scott George saying the Keith Lee Mia Yim spot was funny, though. He liked it. Maybe I didn't get the jokes on that. I thought it was fine. I thought it was entertaining, but it wasn't the best. It wasn't like the best thing ever. So everyone has their own take.
Yeah.
Here's the thing, a lot of good personality stuff. Notice I'm not talking a lot about wrestling. There's a lot of good personality things on NXT. Some people say it lacks personality. I felt the personality, but give me a big match. You're on Wednesday nights. You're going up against Dynamite. You got to have something that they don't got, and they got it with the 2 best guys you could have, the best possible special guest referee. Was this a pay-per-view match? Could we have had this on TakeOver? Yeah, we could have had a fight pit on TakeOver. Say it with me, Robert. Fight pit, fight pit,
fight pit, fight pit.
Kumite. Yes, it's blood sport. And there was blood, whether or not you want to say it was real. There was blood on NXT. The fight pit, it's everything the Lion's Den was supposed to be. We knew we were getting a cage last week. I thought we were getting a cage match. Then it became a cage fight. And then we come into this week, it's a fight pit with Kurt Angle as a special guest referee. Wasn't he released? Kurt's out there. He puts on the rubber gloves. We're getting Matt Riddle versus Timothy Thatcher in this cage, which has basically a scaffold around the top of it. And there's no ropes. There's no turnbuckles. This looked awesome. I loved it. They did a moonsault off of it. They did submissions on the top of it. They had a referee up there. They had Kurt in the inside the cage. You had 2 guys with an MMA background. We're basically getting a worked MMA match. They go to commercial break with something I thought was pretty cool. Timothy Thatcher got his teeth knocked out, and maybe he did the blood capsule bit. I'm not sure, but it looked cool. And then he's like gnarling his teeth and putting it up against the cage, and the athletic guy, the athletic trainer, is looking at his mouth with the light on, and he's mouth, and he keeps out his teeth, and he hands it to the, yes, can you keep my teeth? I'm gonna pick these up after the fight. I'm gonna win this match. I'm gonna beat you up, Matt Riddle, bro, and I'm gonna get my teeth back on my face. All right, so he did that. And the match continues. Matt Riddle and him fight up to the top. And then it turns into a scaffold match. Good point by Tom Phillips to mention Skywalkers here. They're shouting back to the Lion's Den match. Is Ken Shamrock going to do a run-in? No. These guys are carrying this thing by themselves. They fight off the top. Timothy Thatcher falls off the top. He scrapes and falls off the top. They did an ankle lock off the top, which I thought was really cool, too. That was a fun thing. But then Matt Riddle, bro, goes all the way. Big spinning back moonsault. Couldn't finish him off, but gets caught in a sleeper. 3 arm drops. Come on, Kurt. You just could have dropped the arm.
That was awesome. Quick plug for me. So over on Smart Out Moment, we just watched the first of it in your house. And I just said I want them to do the 3 arm dropping thing more. So love that. I like that they added that touch. And this sounds like it was a great gimmick match, and I hope we see more of the fight pit. It was awesome, and it sets up Timothy Thatcher to be the new badass monster shoot wrestler on NXT. We've heard the work. You and I covered it on our last episode. Yesterday, we talked about this. Matt Riddle is bound for SmackDown right now. That's what we know, and that's where he's going to show up. If putting you to sleep and sending you off to SmackDown is how you're going to do it, this is a pretty good way to do it. You went out on a big note, on a big match. I enjoyed it. It wasn't the greatest match, I would say, but in terms of doing something unique that felt different, that felt special, it looked different. It didn't look like just another cage. They spent some time on this. The way they shot it looked really cool. I don't think this would be a fun match to see live because you had the scaffold and it would block a lot of what you could see into the cage, right? But I think this is a great match to do with no fans present. I would agree. Yeah, this is the perfect type of match you can do in a ring with no fans present. And you want to elevate that. The circumstances are driving AEW and WWE to try a lot of different things. The Stadium Stampede. We're going to get Adam Cole versus Velveteen Dream in some type of cinematic match, it looks like. So overall, I loved WWE NXT. I'm giving this
an 8.5. This is a must-see show, elevated a lot of different things for the upcoming TakeOver card. It really fills out the card, especially if we're getting Oni and Lorcan and Danny Burch versus Imperium, especially if we're getting an elevated case of a lot of different people coming at Charlotte Flair, and she's still over as a champion. Hopefully, Shotzi Blackheart is healthy after that big spill she took. But Matt Riddle's off to SmackDown. Timothy Thatcher is a badass. Tommaso Ciampa and Karrion Kross looks really, really cool. Across the board, there isn't one exactly big thing on NXT that I love, but you got to love the emotions in Drake Maverick. There's something for every different type of wrestling fan on this show. And NXT tends to be the show for the hardcore fan. I think they've done a good job of balancing that for giving something for the casual audience with personality segments and different fun things like that. But great wrestling. I loved it. An 8.5, one of my favorite NXT shows I've seen without fans on it.
I'm going to echo your statement for AEW. 8.5. I thought this was a really strong night. Listen, sometimes wrestling just works, guys, and wrestling for me worked tonight because it was just a great time to watch and to cover.
Mm-hmm. If you're with us live, go ahead and give us a rating of 1 to 10. We always do the 1 to 10. What did you think of AEW and NXT tonight? A lot of people sending in theirs. Different takes here. One person saying NXT gets a 9. Great show. AEW gets a 10 from some people. A 10. It's that big of a show. So go ahead and tell us what you think of it. If you're watching on demand on YouTube anywhere, go ahead, throw it down in the comments what you thought of the show. We have some other big news in the world of wrestling to cover today, Robert. What was at the top of your docket today that you were working on?
The top of my docket today, honestly, it was just continuing to cover The Undertaker, The Last Ride, and all the cool stuff that is coming out because of that. You know, we're seeing interviews from guys like Triple H about The Undertaker, Shawn Michaels, talking about how I couldn't appreciate Mark's leadership when I was younger, but, as I cleaned my life up, it meant so much to me that, he was always just that steady hand, and just a lot of great stuff coming out of that.
If you've not caught up on The Last Ride, it is, especially if you're just sour on everything with WWE right now, this is a great documentary. I know a lot more people that have gotten into documentaries in general. You get an idea of this guy that I don't think you've ever gotten before. Is that fair to say? Like, you get a look at him that I don't think people got to see because he was the last of those guys that really guarded his character. You didn't get to see a lot of his character.
Right.
Some other people with different things I'm looking at here on our Twitter at WrestleZone.com. What do we think of Vicky Guerrero tonight on AEW?
She's fine. I'm assuming that there's like a loose agreement there that if she wants a full-time gig, she can have it.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. More people coming in. We do have the WWE Raw viewership slightly down despite the U.S. title match and a crowd, but not down too much. What do you think of Raw holding steady here with these ratings?
It is what it is. I think we can't jump at every little dip and every little thing. If it drops below that 1, then we got an issue.
I agree. There's a lot of viewing patterns that don't seem to make sense. I think AEW would have a bigger audience right now if we weren't dealing with quarantine and all that different stuff too. Other people texting in here want to talk about this. Impact Wrestling lineup for next week has been pretty strong. Deonna Purrazzo debuted last night on Impact Wrestling. What a coup for them. Deonna Purrazzo was on WWE television just about, 6 weeks ago? And now she's on Impact. This is a big pickup for them. They have a really strong women's division with Jordynne Grace as their champion, and now Deonna is added to the mix there. A lot of people thought that she was, of course, bound for Ring of Honor just based on her very public relationship with Marty Scurll, the head of Ring of Honor. What do you think of that?
I think Impact Wrestling has a loaded women's division, and you know what? Kudos to them. Mm-hmm. I think for what AEW, if you took Impact's women's division, AEW's tag division, and then just the singles picture of WWE, that's a nasty combination there. I don't know if Deonna's signed full time. I do believe
not a lot of people in Impact are. Impact has a pretty, because they do the big group tapings. They tape like 2 months of television, like 2 days or whatever they do. And they've been like that pre-pandemic even when they had fans, they were doing it that way. So you can't bound. Ever since they got to north of the border with Canada, they've been a lot more loosey with those deals, and only a few of those people are pretty like tight knit to their fold, right?
Right.
I do want to talk about this. It's been teased and teased and teased and teased, maybe even for years. We got to see it in NXT, but we've really never seen a huge one-on-one match between the complaining friends of WWE Women's SmackDown Champion Bayley and Sasha. And it looks like that match may happen at SummerSlam. This has been teased for a long time. They got to be women's tag team champions together. They've been teasing the turn for months now since they got those titles off and Bayley has her SmackDown belt. What do you think here? Is the gas still going to be in the tank for this in August?
Yeah. There's a lot of people who would just straight up say that gas has been well off the tank.
If you would have told me they were doing this out of WrestleMania, I would have been on board. I don't feel it now.
Yeah, and I just don't think that many people are going to care as much. Mm-hmm. But I'll still love the match. You know, there's so much there between the two of them. So,
you know what? You and I may not, but they have a completely different audience. Bayley and Sasha have that audience that follows them online that may turn out for this match. And I did enjoy this. On this day in 1996, hey, yo, you know who I am, but you don't know why I'm here. When Scott Hall showed up on WCW Nitro on May 27th, 1996. What a special moment that was. I remember watching it on TV and being a young lad and thinking, like, what is going on now? Because at the beginning of the Monday Night Wars, I was going back and forth. But it was one of those things when you would see one guy show up on the other show, you always felt like, all right, now I can't change the channel. Because when I was like 12, if you got somebody to jump from WWE, WWF at the time, or vice versa, if they jumped, even if it was like a minor guy, like when I saw Jeff Jarrett over in WWE and I saw him months earlier on WCW, I was like, oh, I can't change. Who else is going to show up tonight? Is the NWO going to invade? Mark Kevin would mark out. So when I saw this, I couldn't change the channel. This was a very, very special time in wrestling. I know people are very, very fond of it. We definitely think of it on this great level, but that was a huge night. I mean, nearly as big as, I wouldn't say as big as Hogan turning heel, but this was the start of that.
Yeah, and I think this was, when you watch the Monday Night War in clips, it's this, Hogan turns heel and everything else follows through, but it's this that is the moment. So, beautiful moment. May 27th, it was 26 years ago.
Make me feel so old.
Like, it was a long time ago, Kev. I know it makes you feel old. It kind of makes me feel old, even though I could say I was young enough. I'm young enough to remember watching that era, so I feel it too.
I love this. Coming up later this week on SmackDown, we'll get the next round of the Intercontinental Championship Tournament. They took that belt off Sami Zayn, and they've had some pretty solid matches with it. I enjoyed Jeff Hardy versus Sheamus last week. Didn't think it was the best match, but it was certainly a very, very fun return to form, if you will, for Jeff Hardy. And this week we'll get Jeff Hardy versus Daniel Bryan. Who do you got winning that? I know we're going to talk about it before then.
I got to go with Daniel Bryan. You know what sucks? Only because the AEW WWE war, Bryan already said if he wins this belt, he's going to defend it every week. And people are going to be like, you're biting Cody. And I don't give a shit. Like,
yeah, they had John Cena doing the same thing.
Like ago. Cody defending about
Bret Hart did that in the 90s when he was the fighting champion. It's been done.
Cody defending a belt every week, Bryan defending a belt every week, just says to me, that's some good wrestling across the board, and I'm always here for good wrestling.
But don't stop us from bitching. All right, we came here to complain, not watch. But we got a good night of wrestling. I'm going to watch this AEW Dynamite thing, and I will follow up with you and tell you what I thought of that closing segment. You saw it. You thought it was good.
I thought it was good.
Is that it was bad. People not feeling Tyson's Punch-Out gang. What did you tell me? You think they have all AEW has All Out coming out. They have Mike Tyson.
Oh
Mike Tyson
yes.
did the Punch Out video game.
I want credit for this. I want credit for this so much so that like across the board, nobody would have steal this from me. Mike Tyson's All Out needs to be a T-shirt. Like there needs to be like Sammy Guevara as Little Mac, and like you gotta
put the like the black tank top on him with the white trim and everything. Like
you
that.
gotta understand Ryan Barkin for Wrestling
dude, I guarantee you, they're gonna do some Punch Out sketch with Mike Tyson.
They need to, because it just is, Kevin. Like it's just a great idea.
There are a bunch of AEW, Cody, the Bucks. They're a bunch of Generation X video game marks. They're gonna do that. That's like, if they can't do a video game on their own, they're gonna do a video game sketch here. We've gone over 70 minutes. Did you have a good time? You watched the whole thing? You listened to the whole thing? Mwah, mwah. I blow you kisses, not salty treats. I blow you kisses. The safest way to exchange kisses right now at the moment. So thank you so much for doing that. Robert, I know you were busy on the wrestling spectrum.
I'm too busy. Like I just mentioned earlier in the show, we did watch along with the first ever In Your House, and I've got some groundbreaking news for you all. The only reason that we're here is because in 1995, aliens were going to invade the world.
What?
But the WWF was so good that they decided not to do that.
They turned their Martian spaceships around and said, we don't want any of those WWF superstars.
They said, you know what? This shows promise for their world. We don't care about global warming. We're gonna let them live because they have the WWF superstars.
All right, so you have this watch along. This is from your other podcast, which is
Smart Out Moment. It's on YouTube right now. It's a fan announce table, as we call it. Watch along with us on the network. This is a real ad that was aired. That thing with the aliens. I'm not making that up. And it's 1995 cheese in the best way possible. Go watch and enjoy.
I'm a fan of 90s cheese. As a 90s kid, you give me an ad with kids saying Bart Simpson-esque things and getting into trouble. You give me neon, all right? I want some Nickelodeon references. I want people wearing flannel in everything, all right? I want all of that.
And you know what I say to that, Kevin? Nobody better lay a finger on my butterfinger. and when you're watching wrestling, make sure to do this one thing.
What's that?
And that's enjoy wrestling.
I didn't even get to do my plugs, but that was so good. We got to get out of here, man. All right. We'll see you tomorrow.